Half board better, no?
Have you gone through the previous year's economic survey? No? Then just have an overview of the last year's economic survey. So last year's economic survey means which year? 17. So how will we proceed? Shall we proceed in the question and answer format, or shall we just, have the class? Question and answer format in the sense, what I'll do is, I'll share with you some, 60-70 questions related to economic survey. Okay? So you can just go through the questions later. We'll just have the class now. Okay? So you guys go through those 60 odd questions. There are 60-65 questions. You can go through them. So they are all related to your economic survey is, right? That will be one part, and we'll have the class now. So the economic survey has been an important document for the government for quite a time now. Okay. So in fact, it has become a part of the academics as well, right? Even in the colleges which teach your, economic honors, right? So even there, it's an important part. It's a part of the curriculum now. That's how it is. And the probability is that, you get some questions from economic survey. Unfortunately, last year they did not give a question, right? Last year there were no questions. There was in fact one question, right? You can relate to economic survey. So this time, because we don't have an economic survey, right, the probability is that they might ask a question from this, right? They might. You never know. So last year's economic survey was given in pink color, right? So last year's economic survey was given in the pink color. So which highlights what? Huh? So women empowerment. So it was given in pink color. Okay? So highlighting gender and women empowerment, gender equity and women empowerment. Right? So the economic survey stressed on certain points, certain moot points about this particular aspect. What were these moot points? One, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao Andolan. Right? Maternity leave. Right? Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana. So the economic survey said these are the steps in the right direction. Right? And acknowledging this fact, the economic survey came out in pink color. The economic survey also speaks of one more thing related to gender aspect itself. It is called the sun meta preference. Sun meta preference. We'll see what this is. An entire chapter has been dedicated to this. Sun meta preference. So the survey looks at gender equity as a multi-dimensional issue, not a unidimensional issue. So gender equity, according to the survey, is a multi-dimensional issue. Why is it so? We'll take a look as we go through the chapters. Right? Next. Ten issues or 10 outstanding things about the survey last year. It came in the first part of the survey, right? So it talked about 10 points. The first point, so it's like they have given it separately, even before the start of the first chapter, right? There are several chapters in volume 1 and volume 2. Even before the start of these chapters itself, it's like an overview. One thing, it's like an overview. The other thing is, these are the 10 outstanding points in the survey. One, the first point, there has been a large increase. There has been a large increase in registered indirect and direct taxpayers. So this is the first one. Both direct and indirect taxpayers have increased, right? Registered taxpayers. So under this point, 50% increase in indirect tax payments or indirect taxpayers post GST law. Right? After GST, there has been an increase of 50% taxpayers. Second, there has been a significant rise even in the direct taxpayers.
It's inside this point only.
Inside this point. Significant increase in the direct taxpayers as well. Or direct tax filers as well after November 2016, that is your what? Demonetization. So how much is the significant increase? The significant increase we are talking about is year to year there will be a trend. Right? There will be a growth rate. जैसे कि last year से compare करके previous year, there will be a trend of, let's say, 5% increase in taxpayers, right? But November 2016 से जो है, right? Instead of 5%, there was an increase of 10%, 15% I saw, right? So there was a significant increase. Okay. The second point it speaks of, second important point, is that the formal non-agriculture, formal non-agri payroll, payroll is higher than believed, is much higher or much greater than it is believed. Is much greater. So what does this mean? What does this mean? Formal non-agri payroll.
All normal sector except the
Not agricultural
Employment in the formal sector, apart from agriculture. Obviously, agriculture falls in what? Informal sector, right? जो फॉर्मल सेक्टर एम्प्लॉयमेंट जो है, राइट, it is much greater than it is believed. That's what it says. So the common belief is that almost 90% is what? 90% is informal. Only 10% is formal. But the survey says 90% is not informal. Right? It is much lesser. So we say what? 10% is formal. That's what we are saying. It is saying this number is much higher according to the survey. What it says is more than 30%. More than 30% would be considered formal. Would be considered formal. If we take social security provision, if we take into consideration the social security provision, what does this mean? देखो social security net आपको पता है, what is social security net? जैसे कि insurance ये सब, isn't it? So if we are considering that aspect, see how do you define formality? Formal or informal institution कैसे बोलते हैं? Formal or informal job? If you provide social security, right, regular wages, isn't it? Guaranteed, income. ये सब है तो, according to the laws, if the institution is running, you say it is a formal institution and the work is formal. So if you define someone's job as formal on the basis of social security alone, right, then 30% of the people are in formal sector. Why? They are either covered under EPFO, right, or ESIC. So it says what? Almost 30% of the people or the workforce can be considered formal if we consider what? The social security. So on the basis of employee provident fund or ESIC, right? Only if you are considering these, then 30% of India's workforce is formal. This is one.
What is the ESIC?
Employee State Insurance Corporation. See, what is EPFO for? Employee Provident Fund. What is this for? What this does is, the employer has to contribute some money, the employee is going to contribute some money, right? And also government makes some contribution in certain cases. तीनों contribute करके क्या होगा? Pension जैसा आएगा. Towards the end of your, after your retirement, you get pension. That is what? EPF scheme, right? It is handled by EPFO, Employee Provident Fund Organization. On the other hand, ESIC, Employee State Insurance Corporation. What about this? इसमें भी contribution होगा किसका? The government, that is the state government, central government, and the individual, right? And the employer as well. So it depends, right? Different sectors, different industries, different contributions. What happens here, on the other hand, is that if a person is earning less than 21,000 rupees, right? If a person is earning less than 21,000 rupees, he will be contributing this to this fund, ESIC scheme, and he will be getting health insurance 1. 2, sometimes he will be switching the jobs. Employment allowance milega. That's the most important thing. Right? This is the most important things about your ESIC. This is for pension. Okay. So you can read through your notes. Notes mein hai. It's in the notes. Okay. Now 30% according to this. The survey goes further. It says you can consider the Indian economy to be 50% formal. So it says the economy is what? 50% formal. If you base it on what? The GST net. GST tax net. If you are considering 50% of the economy can be considered formal. इसका मतलब क्या? More than 50% of the businesses which are running are in the formal sector. Why? Because they are filing GST. GST returns file कर रहा है. So they are in the formal sector. So people working in there also are in the formal sector. So by that definition, what would you say? More than 50% of Indian economy is formal. Right? But what is the problem with this? Saying that 30% is formal and 50% is formal. The formality of a job is based on various parameters, not just one. है कि नहीं? यहाँ पे firm is what? The firm is in the GST net. Whether the workers there are getting regular salaries, are they covered under the labor laws? Right? Are these people getting regular income? Regular leaves? Job security hai kya? These aspects are not covered. So it's more like what? You are being biased. Right? You just want to show the numbers. So survey to batata hai कि if we define formality in terms of what? Social security. If we define formality in terms of coming under the tax net. Right? So these are the numbers it gives. Next, the third most important aspect of the survey. An Indian state's prosperity, any state's prosperity, the state's prosperity is linked to or is correlated with the international trade and the interstate trade. International and interstate trade. What does this say? Which are the richer states and which are the poorer states? Basically that. Which states do you think are richer? Gujarat. Why? The states which, in fact it is Maharashtra, richest, right? The states which trade internationally more and interstate more, right? Or richer state. The more it transacts business with other states and internationally, or richer states. Okay? In fact, the states which do international trade more are much more richer. These are data points. You have to remember the data points. Right? The states which trade internationally and interstate trade जिसमें ज़्यादा है, उसका these are richer states. जो international trade ज़्यादा करते हैं, वो states much more richer. Right? Next. Fourth point. I'll just read out the point. You tell me if you can make sense out of it. India's firm export structure is substantially more egalitarian than in other large countries. India's firm export structure is substantially more egalitarian than in other larger countries.
Like China is giving subsidies and we are not.
Exports are more.
It is not differentiating based on who is exporting.
On the bigger firms.
Yes, it's about the bigger firms and the smaller firms. Basically, what happens in most of the countries, in the developed countries, right? The bigger firms have a larger share in exports, right? Bigger firms have a larger share in exports in most of the countries, even in the developed countries. Whereas in India, right, the structure, the export structure, right, is like it's egalitarian. It's more egalitarian. That is, even the smaller firms and the medium scale firms do this exports at par with the bigger companies. It's much more egalitarian as compared to other countries, right? So, India's firm export structure is more egalitarian. Is more egalitarian. Right. Fifth, it's particular about a particular sector. It speaks about the textile sector. The fifth point is about the textile sector. The clothing incentive package. The clothing incentive package boosted the exports of ready-made garments. Boosted the export of ready-made garments. Right. So this is not such an important point, right? So not so important. The next point is, however, important. Sixth point. The Indian society exhibits a very strong sun meta preference. The Indian society exhibits a very strong what? Sun meta preference. So what is this about? Parents in India, according to the survey, continue to have children till they have the desired number of sons. Not one son. We are talking about the desired number of sons. So parents in India continue to have what? Children till they have desired number of sons. If they have planned 5 sons, they'll continue to have kids till that point. The problem is, so this is like a fertility stopping rule, isn't it? This is a fertility stopping rule. So what is that fertility stopping rule? I should have 3 sons. This is a fertility stopping rule. Till that point, these people will be having kids. So because of such fertility stopping rule, right, the ratio the gender ratio or the sex ratio will be skewed. It can skew in favor of females or males. How? If the last kid is a son, right? If the last kid is a son, it will be in the favor of male children, right? If the last kid is a girl, it is going to favor whom? The girls or the female population. Why? Because you are going to continue to have the kids, right?
Because if the last child is son, they will be having so many female children, so the number of females will increase. No?
It's not that. So this fertility stopping rule leads to skewed sex ratios, but in different directions. It will be skewed in favor of males if it is the last child, right? But it is in the favor of females if it is not the last, right? Why is it so? Why is it so?
Could you just read out that one?
This kind of fertility stopping rule leads to skewed sex ratios, but in different directions. Skewed in favor of males if it is the last child, but in favor of females if it is not the last child.
So because last child
Last child कौन है? Say for example. Remember, we are not talking about what? One son. We are talking about multiple sons. Suppose somebody had a male child to start with. 2 male children. They'll stop it there. Uska target क्या है? 2 male children. Stop it there. On the other hand, they did not get a male child at all. Right? Will it ever stop? No. It will be in favor of whom? Girls. In the first case? Boys. है ना? So who is stopping the fertility here? Boy. So because the rule itself is in the favor of the boy, if he is the last child, it will be in his favor. Right? On the other hand, if he is not the last child, obviously it will be in the favor of the girls.
Last is here in the sense previous.
Yes. Okay? So this is going to continue. So this is what son meta preference. Right? This is your son meta preference. So skewed in favor of male when last child is male. In favor of female when the last child is not male. If it is not male, it's in its favor. Seventh point it speaks about is that there are a lot of areas, or there is substantial room for the government, right? There is substantial room for the government to avoid litigation. In the tax arena. Which can reduce the burden on the government. Right? What does this mean? That is, the government litigates a lot when it comes to the taxes. Right? When it comes to the taxes, the government litigates the laws, litigates a lot. ज़्यादा cases file करता है. The government files a lot of cases when it comes to the taxation part. And in fact, you file so many litigations, right? So many cases that it is burden on the judiciary, right? दूसरा बात यह है कि आपका सक्सेस रेट भी अच्छा नहीं है. The government success rate is also not good, right? You actually invest your energy into fighting the case. The government invests energy in fighting the case, no? Right? Return तो नहीं आ रहा है, right? In fact, the worst part is almost 66% of the pending cases, 66% of the pending cases account for less than 1.8% of the stake. So 66%. of cases, क्या है? Less than 1.8% of value. मतलब क्या? Remaining how much? Rest 34% forms what? Almost 98% of the value it is litigating. All these cases we are talking about, 66% of the cases or of the value less than 10 lakh rupees. Right? So of value less than what? 10 lakh rupees. इस केस पे आप खर्च कर रहे हो 66% of the cases. It's a loss or not? It's a burden. It's a burden on the government.
Just a value you are telling, sir. Or else you are telling.
It is less than 10 lakh. जो cases
1.8% of the value. Less than 1%. Okay, 1.8% of the 10 lakh.
No. 1.8% of what? Total value. See, income tax department है, right? Tax department. So total 100 crore आना है मुझे, right? Total cases का value है 100 crore, right? उसमें से 1.8%, that is 66% of the cases take it up, right? 100 cases है, 100 cases 100 crore rupees, right? Value is 100 crore rupees. Each case 1 crore हो तो अच्छा है, but what is the problem? 66% of the cases amount to only 2 crore rupees or 1.8 crore rupees. Rest of the money is in 34% cases. So what should the government do? The government should concentrate on that 34% cases. Leave the 66% cases. जब time आए देख लो. Right? So this is the problem you have. 8. So a lot of burden can be reduced. That's what we can say. So when you look at the success rates now, when it comes to the litigations, Supreme Court में success rate है 27% in case of direct taxes, 11% in case of indirect taxes. Supreme Court में. In Supreme Court, success rate is 27%. Direct taxes में. Indirect taxes में it is 11%. High courts में direct taxes success rate is 13%. Indirect tax cases success rate is 46%. That is direct taxes में success rate is good in Supreme Court. Indirect taxes में success rate is good in high courts. Right. Eighth point, to ignite the growth or to reignite the growth story, right? To push India forward, to have better growth rates, it's important for us to raise the investments rather than raising the savings itself. So, raise investments to increase the growth. Growth improvement के लिए raise the investments. So it says raising the investments is more important than raising the savings. Right? What it says is, across the world, wherever you see, आपको ये याद होना चाहिए. What is that? If in your country, if the investments have to increase, savings should also increase. है कि नहीं? Investment करना है तो savings भी increase होना है. Then what is it saying? It's saying that even without savings increase, what will happen? Investment increase हुआ तो it is good for growth. So it's saying that increase the investments, right? Growth will increase, right? Increasing the savings does not guarantee what? Increasing growth. But these two are interlinked. That's what normal knowledge is. That's what usually people think. But what it says is, this is not essential per se. This is not essential per se. Why? Why? So it says, world over, when you do the national level analysis, cross country analysis jab karoge, what it has been found is growth slowdowns, right, in countries is always, in most of the cases, is preceded by what? Investment slowdown, not savings slowdown. Right? Cross country analysis show that what? The growth slowdown is preceded by investment slowdown rather than what? Saving slowdown. Now, the obvious question. Do you remember this? Do you remember this? Sixm, right? So what is Y? Y is GDP, right? What is this? Consumption expenditure. This is consumption expenditure. Let's suppose it to be what? Let's suppose it to be C. Consumption expenditure C. Right? Y is equal to C plus X minus M. Correct? Now, tell me, is your consumption, what is consumption equal to? What is consumption equal to? How much you spend, right? How much do you spend? Huh? Can you tell me in terms of investment and savings? Income minus savings is your consumption, right? So your income minus savings is your what? Consumption. So income minus savings is your consumption, right? Now what are we saying? Say for example, आपका investments जो है, right? Whatever you are saving, right, is going into investments. Whatever you are saving is going into investments. But if you are saving less, right, your investment also should be lesser. But what do we see? Even if the saving rates are lesser, investments can be more. How is it possible? Borrow from outside, right? You borrow from outside or let the foreign investments come in. That's the only way. isn't it? So what are you saving? Whatever you are saving, that is going into investments, right? If that is not sufficient, right, you actually do what? Allow the foreign investments to come in. That's what you do, right? So what is it we can say? It's important to raise the investments to have a better growth story rather than raising the savings itself. Right? If you want to grow faster, invest more. Right? Do not worry much about the savings rate. क्यों? Cross country analysis जब करोगे, this is what is shown. Right? So generally, in India's case, the savings rate is generally higher than the investment rate. In our case, our savings rates are generally higher than the investment rates. So what should we do now? Savings rate slow हुआ तो भी, don't worry. See to it that investment rates are rising. That's what the economic service is. Next. Ninth point. Indian states perform better as also the local governments when it comes to direct tax collections as compared to what? As compared to other federal countries. As compared to the counterparts in other federal countries. What does this mean? हमारा स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स जो है, हमारा लोकल लेवल गवर्नमेंट्स जो है, they collect more direct taxes from people, right, than other countries. See, ours is a federal structure, right? So with a strong union, we have a federal structure. So here, the states and the local governments जो है, they collect more taxes from people as compared to, let's say, another country which has such a federal structure. There the states and the local governments do not collect so many taxes. Basically that. Right? So despite this fact, we are in a bad shape. Right? So that is the 9th point. 10th point. The 10th point is about the climate change. The footprint of climate change is evident and extreme weather conditions adversely impact agriculture yields. Right? The point it states is that the effect will be twice as large in unirrigated areas than in irrigated areas. Right? The effect on agriculture yields will be twice as large in unirrigated areas as compared to irrigated areas. Okay, These are the 10 points. In volume 1, you had 9 chapters, and in volume 2, you had 10 chapters, a total of 19 chapters. Okay? First chapter. I'll just give you the pointers which are important from the first chapter. Just write down the pointers, that's enough. So chapter 1 is state of the economy. State of the economy. Right. So it states that the government has taken several measures, several reform measures, which include GST, IBC, recapitalization package being the important ones. It speaks of decoupling. It speaks of what is called as decoupling. You know what is decoupling? Till 2016, the Indian economy was accelerating when it comes to the growth. Right? Post 2016, however, right, the Indian economy started to decouple from the growth story. Right? That is to say, it's like till 2016 the world was slowing down. Right? The world had started to pick up its, momentum. India also was growing at a faster pace till 2016 end. But after 2016, while the world started to move forward, the Indian economy started to lag behind. Right? So this is called decoupling. So even as the world started moving forward, so the growth of the world economy was increasing, whereas India's economy was falling. This is what decoupling. When did it happen? Post 2016. Right? The industrial production, credit growth, investment growth, ये सब diesel rate होने चालू हो गया. Right? Everything started to decelerate. So the world economy started to grow faster, or it's like, it started to recover. Right? The world economy was slowing down. Right? Now it started to recover. It started to grow, whereas India started to decelerate. Why? Reasons. Reasons for decoupling. The reasons for decoupling. 1. Demonetization and GST. Two. Demonetization and GST. 2. Tight monetary policy. इससे क्या होता है? What happens with the tight monetary policy? Less investments, less credit growth, isn't it? Less credit growth, less investments. इससे less growth भी है, right? Does the rupee strengthen or weaken because of this? The rupee strengthens. Because of the tight monetary policy, the rupee strengthens. When the rupee strengthens, what happens? The exports get hit. Isn't it? So, tight money policy से क्या क्या है? What happens because of this? Low credit growth, low investments, right? Appreciation of the currency. इससे क्या होगा? Exports will fall. Growth कहाँ से होगा? This is the second reason. Third reason. The TBS challenge. What is TBS? The twin balance sheet problem. Fourth problem. Oil prices started to spike up since 2017. In fact, the Indian government was too lucky to get that bounty. Isn't it? It was like a bounty. Right? The Indian government made thousands of crore rupees. Because of this itself, the government was able to, rein in the fiscal deficit. If not, it was impossible. Right? So, oil prices started to shoot up since 2017. Right? And finally, farm incomes started to fall. इससे क्या होगा? Because of the last two, inflation ज़्यादा होगा यहाँ पे, right? Oil prices are going to increase, right? This is problematic. Farm incomes are going to fall. If the farm incomes going to fall, consumption less होगा. Because consumption is lesser, production has to go down, isn't it? So these are all the reasons why decoupling happened. Next. So the economy started to recover towards the second half, however. The economy started to recover during the second half, however. So because of the actions taken by the government, right? Because of the actions taken by the government, the economy started to recover. जैसे कि TBS challenge को tackle करने के लिए, right? It came up with the IBC, right? Because of such and other measures, the economy started to recover. Basically, जो reforms लिया government ने, it was based on strong economic fundamentals, macroeconomic fundamentals के basis पे था. So because the reforms were based on what? Strong macroeconomic fundamentals, the economy was able to make a recovery. The economy was able to make a recovery. Right. Next. So this is for the short term, right? ये जो हुआ ये सब शॉर्ट टर्म में हुआ था, डीकपलिंग जो हुआ, रिकवरी जो हुआ, वो सब एक साल में हुआ. मीडियम टर्म में, in the medium term, what is the government supposed to do? The economic survey says, in the medium term, the government is supposed to do something. What is this? It says, the government is supposed to learn some lessons. The government is supposed to learn some lessons from certain things. 1. Promote cooperative federalism. So what is medium term in economics, in Indian economy? Medium term क्या होता है? Short term is 1 year. Medium term is
9 months.
3 years. Short term is 1 year. Medium term is 3 years. Okay. So it says you have to draw lessons from what? For what? Cooperative federalism. What does this say? The GST Council has been rather successful. The structure of GST Council has been rather successful for what? Implementing the GST and to thwart all the differences which were there between the states. Same structures can be erected, right? Same structures can be erected in various areas wherever you have the center and the states differences. जहाँ पे भी सेंटर और स्टेट का डिफरेंसेस है, जो भी इश्यूज है, उसे रिजॉल्व करने के लिए what can you come up with? Come up with structures like GST Council, right? So that's what you can learn. For what? Better cooperative federalism. जैसे कि कॉमन एग्रीकल्चर मार्केट होना चाहिए, right? States have they have their own reservations, and then you have electricity markets, state discoms, right? And then interstate water disputes, direct benefit transfer, right? So air pollution combat करने के लिए जो भी issues है, सेंटर का स्टैंड एक है, स्टेट्स का स्टैंड एक है, right? Wherever there are issues between center and the states, it's better to have what? Have a structure which is like a GST Council, right? It would promote what? Cooperative federalism. This is the first one. Second, medium term के लिए. This is very important. It speaks about facilitating exit. It speaks about facilitating the exit. What is this about?
If you're starting something, it should be easy to leave also.
So, which context?
Business or investment.
Ah. So, what is this about? India has moved from right? So marketism or capitalism. Socialism with restricted entry to marketism without exit. So what does this mean? See, earlier we had a socialist model till 1991. तब क्या था? To start a business, what is difficult? License राज था. Socialism with restricted entry, very restricted था business start करना. Post 1991, however, right, starting a business is very easy. To come out of it is very difficult. What is coming out of it? If you go into a loss, to shut down the business is difficult. That is to say, when you are shutting down, you are supposed to pay some money to someone. Shareholders को pay करना है, उसके बाद operational shareholders होता है, इन सबको pay करना है, right? बैंक से loan लिया है, उसको pay करना है. How do you get out of this mess? It's difficult, right? Exit के लिए doors अच्छे से open नहीं किया है. That is why you have the IBC, right? IBC gives a platform for you to exit, right? So this is what you are facilitating exit, right? In fact, IBC is harmonizing still. It is still harmonizing. What is harmonizing? See, it is getting adjusted to reality, isn't it? Third, rationalizing the government resources. Rationalizing the government resources. That is the third point. What does this mean? What it means is, putting in place physical assets is not as important as putting them to actual use or utilization. Right? What does this mean? Government is spending the resources on what? Creation of physical assets. If the physical assets are not utilized properly, what is the use of putting the physical assets there? So, rationalizing government resources is important. In the sense, whenever you are coming up with a scheme, right, always make sure that some amount, some resources are used for what? Physical asset creation. The other part of the asset or resources are used for what? Putting that physical resource to use. स्कूल बिल्ड किया आपने, स्कूल बिल्ड करने के लिए बहुत पैसे खर्च किए, राइट? Having the school there is not important. What is important? Teachers and students should come to the school. That's more important, right? That is one of the major problems of what? Our budget also. Earlier जो था budget में plan और non-plan expenditure जो था, right? Such a classification. Even now we have revenue expenditure, capital expenditure. जैसे कि स्कूल आप स्टार्ट करते हो ना, if you are building a new school, it becomes a part of capital expenditure. Every year you have to spend some money on maintaining the school. The maintenance cost comes under what? Revenue expenditure में आएगा, right? Revenue expenditure is considered to be wasteful expenditure. तो मेंटेनेंस क्या वेस्टफुल है क्या? It's not, isn't it? So what is the problem here? Problem क्या है? Government is setting up the physical assets, true, but utilization is not proper. Utilization के लिए भी rationalize करना है government resources को, right? So this can be used in toilet building into toilet use. बैंक अकाउंट्स ओपन करवा दिया आपने, फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन हो रहा है क्या? Are the bank accounts being used? cause people to use the bank accounts. Only then it is useful. Cooking gas connections आपने चालू कर दिया, gas offtake हुआ है क्या? This is another one. That is reduction in usage of other fuels. Has it gone down? Right? Village electrification अब तो किए, 100% village electrification हुआ है. Right? Power 24/7 आ रहा है क्या? नहीं तो has it reached all the households? Right? This is what you are rationalizing government resources. Right. It points out, the survey points out two major vulnerabilities. Two major vulnerabilities. Continuation phase. Two major vulnerabilities.
In rationalization.
No.
Another point.
Another point. Medium term के लिए vulnerabilities क्या है? Two major vulnerabilities of the economy. एक है fiscal vulnerability. Fiscal vulnerability. So what does this mean? Fiscal vulnerability. Right. So what is the first one? Fiscal vulnerability. What did you write? Fiscal लिखा ना? Fiscal vulnerability. So what is this fiscal vulnerability? There are some contingent liabilities sitting at the fence. Right? There are some contingent liabilities sitting at the fence. जैसे कि the banking sector, things in banking sector going wrong. Then the government has to step in. If things go wrong in the banking sector, the government has to step in with recapitalization plan. तो fiscal deficit ज़्यादा हो जाएगा. If the electricity sector goes wrong, discoms जैसे कि distribution companies जो है, उसको problem आए तो government has to step in. कौन सा स्कीम है discoms के लिए? उदय स्कीम, right? उज्ज्वल discom assurance योजना, right? The government has to step in. Again, it has to spend. Right? Apart from that, agriculture incomes for some reason, if it goes down, the government has to step in. Basically, ये सब जो है, these are all what contingent liabilities हैं. Right? These are all contingent liabilities. The government may have to step in. If the government steps in, fiscal deficit ज़्यादा होगा. Right? So, the only way to tackle this fiscal vulnerability, to be better placed to tackle this fiscal vulnerability, is what? Increase the tax to GDP ratio. Right? ये fiscal vulnerability को tackle करना है तो क्या करना है? You have to increase the tax to GDP ratio. Second vulnerability is about the current account deficit. Current account deficit. What about this? What about this current account deficit? You have to increase the exports to tackle this problem. You have to increase the exports. How do you increase the exports, or how to tackle this current account deficit problem? More focus has to be on manufacturing sector. Another one. Right. Apart from this, it also speaks of other issues. Right? It also speaks of other issues. So apart from these, there are other issues as well. What is the other issue?
Medium term is over, sir.
A medium term may, it still continues. What it says is, you have to maintain a balance. It says, you have to maintain a balance between attacking corruption and reducing its cost. Right? Attacking corruption and reducing its cost. So, in fact, the survey takes a jibe at the government in a rather indirect way. Right? It is taking a jibe at the government in an indirect way. What is it saying? अच्छा बात यह है कि corruption is a bad thing. Yes, you have to attack it. But look at the costs when you are trying to take up certain policy measures. Right? Policy measure लिया आपने, intent तो सही है, black money end करना है. Right? What are the costs that entails such policy actions? Right? So this has to be kept in mind. Maintain a balance. Right? So that is one suggestion it gives. Right? What it says is, there should be greater reliance. There should be greater reliance on using incentives, that is carrots. There should be greater reliance on using carrots than sticks. It says the focus should be on the flow problem rather than on the stock problem. Right? The focus should be on the flow problem rather than on the stock problem. What does this mean? अभी जो आप policies create कर रहे हो, नहीं तो जो policies and schemes which are running, right? यहाँ पे flow हो रहा है corruption. Take measures to stop them. जो हुआ है वो छोड़ो. Deal with that in a different manner. Right? Trying to target the earlier things, you are forgetting the present. है कि नहीं? Is it not? See, नेहरू जो किया है. Leave that, no? Isn't it? Don't you think it's all stupid? Hindsight से बहुत easy है. To judge someone with hindsight is very easy. Right? यहाँ पे बैठ के to judge and comment on 1947 is very very easy. Right? You will be judged. You have to remember that. Your sons and daughters would say, my father and mother were stupid to not to have become prime minister. She had ample opportunity. है कि नहीं? They let some stupid person become something. वो तो बोलेगा ना, someday they are going to say ना, isn't it? Hindsight आपको तब लगेगा ये क्या बोल रहा है, isn't it? Hindsight से बात करना बहुत simple है. It's easy to make judgments, right? To be in that place and to have taken decisions, that's a completely a different ball game. है कि नहीं? Right. So that's the same thing we are talking about here, right? So greater emphasis should be on what? The flow problem, stock problem पे नहीं, right? Stock जो है stock है, deal with it in a different way. अभी भी problems है, deal with them. जैसे कि instead of focusing or diverting your manpower to the cases that have happened in the yesteryears so much, take out some force and focus on the problems that exist today. अब क्या हो रहा है? You are focusing on the previous cases. इससे क्या हो रहा है? यहाँ पे you are not focusing. The corruption continues. The corruption just continues here. The survey is not asking you to stop the cases altogether. It's just that focus on present now. यहाँ पे correct करने के बाद पीछे देख लो. Nobody is stopping you. In fact, until and unless you address the present corrupt systems, you can't do anything with the previous corrupt actions. Is it not? Right? So that is what the survey says. But unfortunately, survey is what? Just a recommendation document. Right? The government most of the time, brushes it aside. Important nahi hai. Right? Next. So these are all what? The issues. So Indian economy के लिए way forward क्या है? The way forward, it says the focus should be on the way forward for the Indian economy should be on 4 hours of the TBS. 4 hours. 4 hours. 4 hours. What are the 4 hours? Recognition, resolution, recapitalization, and reforms. Do you remember Indradhanush? क्या है इंद्रधनुष? 7 points. A B C D E F G है ना? Appointments, banks, boards, bureau. C capitalization. D पढ़ लो. D tip of the tongue phenomenon. E अब E भी याद नहीं आएगा. D पे स्टक हुआ. Tell me, no, you tell that, a recognition test है. We need not recall. वो भी है ना? Give options. Options दिया तो easy हो जाएगा. क्यों? D से है, related to banking है.
Empowerment.
E for empowerment. D for? F for? G for? Governance reforms. F and D.
D is
De-stressing.
De-stressing.
D for de-stressing.
Framework for accountability.
F for framework for accountability. Okay. So first thing it speaks of is way forward. Way forward is 4 hours के बारे में you have to do something, right? And then it speaks of another thing related to stabilization of GST implementation, right? First is focus on 4 hour. Second, stabilization of GST. Right? And then next, it most importantly speaks of privatizing Air India. Right. Four hour recognition, recapitalization, reforms is last, and recovery or restructuring you can say. Right. It speaks of a table. There is a table given in your economic survey. There was a table given in your economic survey. The table was political economy of interest and exchange rates. The table is called political economy of interest and exchange rates. No. In the first chapter it's political economy of interest and exchange rates. That's the topic. Political economy of interest and exchange rates. What is this about? Political economy क्या होता है? What is political economy? The economy of political classes, or it's about different groups of people, right? Political is what? It's about groups of people. Different groups of people see interest rates and exchange rates in different ways, right? And who wants what? The first group is about the manufacturers. First group is the manufacturers, exporters, and farmers. Manufacturers, exporters, and farmers. What do they want? What do they want? How should they want the interest rates and exchange rates to be? Right? They want low interest rates. Right? They prefer low interest rates and a weaker currency. क्यों? Export करना है, isn't it? They want a weaker currency and low interest rates. Why low interest rates? Borrowing easy होगा. Right? Exception इसमें exception कौन है? Import intensive manufacturers. Import intensive manufacturers. They are an exception. Why? They need more imports. So what about them? They have no strong preference for anything. Interest rate kaisa bhi ho, AV kaisa bhi ho, we don't care. Right? Right. Those firms which are domestically oriented firms, for them, they prefer low interest rates.
This is a group 2 or?
Group 2. Domestically oriented firms. Exchange rate. What about the exchange rate? No preference. No preference for exchange rate. कैसा भी हो चलता है उसको. Next, infrastructure companies. Next group, infrastructure companies. They want a stronger currency and lower interest rates. What about this? Why? Stronger currency, less interest rate. Why? Stronger interest rate. Why? Infrastructure companies mostly import their capital. जो भी मिशनरी चाहिए उसको वो इंपोर्ट करता है, बड़े बड़े मशीनरी, right? Because it is infrastructure, they also borrow loans from external sector, right? Because of this, they prefer what? Stronger exchange rate. This is for infrastructure. Households के लिए क्या है? What about the households? Exchange rates, no preference. What about the interest rates? बताओ, let's see. What do they prefer? They prefer high interest rates. So for them, they prefer high interest rates. Why? Because they save more than they invest. Borrowing से ज़्यादा investment ज़्यादा है, isn't it? They save more. So households prefer what? High interest rates. Right. Next. So this becomes a bit complicated. They are not going to ask, but I will ask you. Let's see. Domestic equity investors. What do they prefer? Link करो ना. Domestic equity investors. Equity का मतलब shares. हाँ. Domestic equity investors. Exchange rate से कोई लेना देना नहीं. Why low interest rates? See, lower the interest rates, better the corporate performance, isn't it? Better the share prices, isn't it? Low interest rate है तो corporate sector will perform better, isn't it? Whenever the repo rate decreases, what happens? Stock markets usually do well. This time it was not so. Why was it not so? It was about the expectation. The stock market expected it to be cut down by 50 basis points, but the cut was only for 25 basis points. I know. So what does this mean? Domestic equity investors जो है, they want what? Low interest rates. Why? Because corporate sector will do better.
So
right?
These investors will also get loan for investing in the equities.
No. See, you never take a loan to invest. आप म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हो तो you never take a loan and invest, right? So बहुत रेयर है, right? बहुत रेयर है. Now, what about the people, right, who make equity investments abroad, foreign equity investments? What about them? What do they prefer? See, obviously they want low interest rates, right? Stronger. They prefer a stronger currency and low interest rates. Right. Other things not so important. What about the government? Government prefers what?
High interest rate.
High interest rate or low interest rate?
Low interest rates and
Low interest rate, no.
strong.
See, if the government prefers high interest rate, no, it has to pay high interest. It is a net borrower any day, isn't it? It prefers a low interest rate. Right.
So for domestic equity investor, like exchange rate, they expect it to be no preference.
No preference.
Government also.
Government also no preference. उसको क्या होना चाहिए? Stable होना चाहिए बस. It wants it to be stable. Next. Stock market boom. Stock market boom. Stock market boom. No, it's the same chapter. Stock market boom. Is India different? So this is a box item again. Stock market boom. Is India different? See, what was happening was, it's like a story, right? What was happening was, Indian stock market was outperforming all the other stock markets in the world, right? In the year 2016-17, 15-16, 16-17, it was almost outperforming every other country, the stock markets. What is the reason behind this, right? What is the reason behind this? And what is in the future, right? What happened after that, right? So, because of this, because of the stock market boom, what has it led to? It has led to a convergence. It has led to a convergence in the price earning ratios, of Indian stock market, to that of the US. Price earning ratios, convergence of what? Price earning ratios to that of US. What does this mean? When you invest the money in the stock market, that's the price, right? The money you invest in the stock market, that is the price. The outcome you get is the earning. Okay? So, in US, if you put in 100 units of money, you would be getting, let's say, 200 units of money. It's just a supposition. If you put 100 units of money in US stock market, you will be getting what? 200 units. So 100 units profit, right? So 1:2 is the ratio. Price earning ratio is 1:2. In India, it used to be, if you put 100 units of money, you used to get 150 units of money earlier. But during the stock market boom in India, for the last 2-3 years, what was happening? It was the same ratio. If you put 100 units of money in India, you used to get 200 units of money back. There was this convergence, India or US stock markets में ये convergence था. Though there was this convergence, the routes followed by India and US are quite different, right? Routes followed by India and US are quite different. they set out on different paths altogether. ये जो convergence हुआ है, the convergence that has happened in a different backdrop in case of India. What is that different backdrop? One, when the economy was decelerating, when the world economy was decelerating, during that time, Indian stock markets have soared. Whereas US का केस ऐसा नहीं था. वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमी जब सोर हो रहा था, तभी उसका स्टॉक मार्केट्स भी सोर हुआ था. Right? They performed better when the world economy was performing better. But we performed better when the world economy was not doing better. That is the first difference. Who is better? India is better. Remember, economic survey कौन लिखता है? Right? Second, India's corporate earnings to GDP. India's corporate earnings to GDP has been sliding since global financial crisis. Have been sliding since global financial crisis. But the profits of US firms has been healthy. Profits of US corporates has been healthy. Yet, in such an environment, the Indian stock markets have done better. They have soared, even in this situation. Third, Indian stock markets have soared in India despite the fact that the real interest rates have been increasing to historic levels. Real interest rates ऊपर हो ही रहा है इंडिया में, yet the stock market soared. Whereas US में they kept on decreasing to very low levels, right? Yet during those times they achieved what? Stock market boom. हमारा क्या है? Even when we were increasing the interest rates, we achieved what? Stock market, right? So these are the three things. दूसरा क्या था? What was the second one? Corporate to GDP. Third, real interest rate. See, per se they might not ask you these questions. What might they ask? The underlying concepts. Concepts पूछते हैं, right? They ask you the concepts. Next. So what led to this? Why? See, when you have these things happening, obviously what should happen? Stock market should go down usually, right? Why did the stock markets boom then? The economic survey says two reasons, right? There were only two reasons for this. One, expectations though. Reasons for stock market boom. See, with these things, usually what should happen? The stock market should go down, right? That's what was happening in US. But despite these things in India, stock market boom happened. Why? Two reasons. The first reason. What is the first reason? Expectations. Investors का expectations क्या था? The Indian economy is becoming stable. right? इसीलिए they started investing. That is why the stock market soared, right? इसके लिए substantiation कुछ नहीं है, बस ऐसा बोला. दूसरा, demonetization. Why demonetization? Because of demonetization, people now fear to hold money in cash and gold. They put the money in stock markets. How many of you people put the money in stock markets? You don't have that much money. Great. You have to declare. Remember? Okay. Next. ये सब बोला हुआ था your chapter 1. ज़्यादा हुआ क्या? Is it too much? Too much? How many pages? 2 pages. दूर दूर लिखा तो 4 पेज भी होगा, 6 पेज भी होगा. Okay, we'll take a break, right? So first chapter is the one which takes a lot of time. Why? Because it's an overview chapter, right? Because it tries to include everything from all the chapters. That is why it takes a lot of time. Okay, we'll take a break.